The rain fell like shattered dreams on the neon-lit streets of Busan, each droplet carrying the weight of a truth too heavy to bear. Diaz Isabel's trembling hands clutched the photograph, the one that would destroy everything she thought she knew about love, about trust, about the man whose tattooed hands had once promised her forever. Chan Young stood before her, his jaw clenched, those dark eyes that once held only warmth, now swimming with something she'd never seen before. Fear. Real, raw, devastating fear. "I never lied to you," he whispered, his voice breaking on the last word, reaching for her face with those inked fingers she'd memorized in the darkness of 1,000 nights. But she stepped back, because sometimes the biggest lies aren't the words we speak, they're the truths we choose to bury. 2 days. They had 2 days until Valentine's Day. 2 days until the future they'd planned would either bloom or burn. 2 days until the past he'd hidden would either be forgiven or become the final chapter of their impossible love story. And somewhere in the shadows of Busan's underworld, someone was watching. Someone who knew that the collision of these two worlds, her light and his darkness, would ignite a fire that could consume them both. What truth could break a woman who'd survived everything? What lie could destroy a man who conquered everyone? Before we dive into this heart-wrenching journey, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, whether you're in the USA, UK, or anywhere in between or even outside. Hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss a story that'll make your heart race and your tears fall. Trust me, you'll want to be here for every single moment of what comes next. Because some loves are worth dying for, and some truths are worth killing to protect. 3 months earlier, before the rain, before the photograph, before everything shattered into pieces too sharp to hold. The Golden Pearl restaurant hummed with the usual Friday night chaos. Clinking glasses, hurried conversations, the sizzle of beef bulgogi meeting hot stone. Diaz Isabel moved through it all like a dancer who'd learned the choreography by heart, her smile professional but tired, her eyes scanning tables with practiced efficiency. She'd been in Busan for 8 months now, running from a past in Atlanta that had left scars deeper than skin. The late shift paid better, and better meant closer to freedom, closer to forgetting. That's when he walked in. Chan Young didn't just enter a room, he claimed it. The expensive leather jacket hugged shoulders that spoke of power, and those tattoos creeping up his neck told stories in a language most people feared to read. His crew followed him like shadows, Taemin, his right hand, and Minho, whose smile never reached his eyes. But it was Chan Young who made the air shift, made her breath catch. "Table for 3, he said, his Korean accented with something deeper, darker. When their eyes met, Diaz felt something crack open inside her chest, something she'd locked away after her last heartbreak, after Malik had shown her that trust was just another word for foolish. She led them to the corner booth, the one reserved for customers who paid extra for privacy. As she handed him the menu, their fingers brushed. A spark, a promise, a warning she should have heeded. "You're not from here," he observed, his English perfect, his gaze intense enough to make her skin warm. "Neither are you completely, but we all run from something, don't we?" His smile was slow, dangerous, beautiful. "What makes you think I'm running?" "Because people who found what they're looking for don't look the way you do when they walk through a door, like they're expecting either salvation or a bullet." Taemin chuckled, but Chan Young's expression shifted into something resembling respect. "Observant. I like that. I'm Chan Young. Diaz. And observation keeps you alive in this world." "Which world? The restaurant business?" His tone was playful, but his eyes were testing her, measuring her. "Whichever world requires you to sit with your back to the wall and your eyes on every exit." The truth hung between them like a suspended breath. He was dangerous, she knew it, but danger, she'd learned, sometimes wore the most beautiful faces. Over the next 2 hours, while his crew conducted business in low voices, Chan Young kept finding excuses to call her back to their table. Another bottle of soju, extra kimchi, questions about the menu that they both knew he didn't need answered. When the restaurant began to close, he was the last to leave. He stood at the door, rain beginning to fall outside, and turned back to her. "Tomorrow night, dinner, somewhere without fluorescent lights and other people's conversations." She didn't know then that saying yes would be the beginning of everything. The love, the lies, and the devastating truth that would shatter them both. Diaz should have said no. Every instinct, every lesson learned from previous heartbreaks, every warning sign screaming in her head said to walk away from this tattooed man with secrets in his eyes and danger in his smile. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "Only if you promise to tell me the truth about who you really are." His laugh was soft, almost sad. "Truth is overrated, Diaz. But for you, I'll try." As he disappeared into the rain-slicked night, her coworker Soo-jin rushed to her side. "Do you know who that was? Chan Young runs half the underground business in this city. He's connected to things that would make your blood freeze. Stay away from him, Diaz, please." But Diaz was already falling, already caught in the gravitational pull of a man whose darkness called to the shadows she carried in her own soul. The restaurant Chan Young chose was the kind of place where secrets went to hide. Dim lighting, private rooms, and waitstaff trained to see nothing, hear nothing, remember nothing. Diaz wore the only dress she owned that made her feel like more than a woman running from her past. Deep emerald that contrasted beautifully against her skin. Simple, but elegant. When Chan Young saw her, something shifted in his expression. Vulnerability, fleeting as a heartbeat, before the mask of control slipped back into place. "You're stunning," he said, and the way he said it, like the words were pulled from somewhere deep and true, made her believe him. They talked for hours. He told her about growing up between two worlds, Korean father, American mother, never quite belonging anywhere until he carved out his own space in the shadows. She told him about Atlanta, about studying literature, about dreams of opening her own bookstore before life had shown her that dreams were luxuries some people couldn't afford. "What happened?" he asked, his hand finding hers across the table, those tattooed fingers gentle despite the violence they'd surely inflicted. "I trusted the wrong man, loved him. He took everything, my savings, my sense of safety, my ability to believe in good men." Her voice cracked. Malik was his name. Sweet words, sweeter lies, By the time I realized what he was, I'd lost everything I'd worked for. Chan Young's jaw tightened. If I ever meet this Malik— "You'll do nothing," she interrupted, squeezing his hand, "because I'm not that woman anymore. I don't need saving, Chan Young. I need honesty. I need someone who won't make me regret believing again." The silence between them felt sacred. "I can't promise you I'm a good man, Diaz. My world, it's complicated, dark. But I can promise you this: I will never take from you, only give, and I will protect you with everything I have." It wasn't a confession of love. It was something more dangerous, a vow that would bind them together through heaven and hell. They became inseparable after that night. Chan Young showed her Busan through different eyes: the hidden gardens, the late-night markets, the rooftop where you could see the entire city spread out like a constellation of dreams. He was gentle with her in ways that contradicted everything his reputation suggested: patient, attentive, present. 3 weeks in, as they lay tangled in his penthouse sheets, city lights painting patterns across their skin, she whispered, "Tell me something real, something you've never told anyone." His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. "My mother used to say that people like us, people caught between worlds, were either bridges or battlefields. I chose to be both, built an empire so I'd never feel powerless again. But sometimes," his voice dropped to barely a whisper, "sometimes I wonder if power is just another kind of prison." Diaz turned to face him, her hand cupping his jaw. "You're more than what you've built, Chan Young. More than the empire, the reputation, the fear. You're also this man who remembers how I take my coffee, who notices when I'm tired, who holds me like I'm something precious. You are precious. You're the first real thing I've had in years." They made love again, slower this time, and she felt herself surrendering not just her body, but the broken pieces of her heart she'd thought were too damaged to offer anyone. For 2 perfect months, Diaz lived in the beautiful lie that love could exist separate from truth. She moved some of her things into his penthouse, not officially living together, but close enough that her toothbrush lived next to his, her books populated his previously sparse shelves, her laughter filled spaces that had only known silence. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday that started like any other perfect day. She was making breakfast when his phone rang. Watching him answer it, she saw the transformation. The soft man who'd held her through nightmares became someone else, someone harder, colder. "Handle it," he said in Korean, his voice ablade. "I don't care about excuses. Yeju knew the rules. Make an example." The words chilled her, but when he turned back to her, the warmth flooded back into his eyes. "Sorry, love. Work." "What kind of work requires making examples of people?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light, casual. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "The complicated kind. Nothing for you to worry about." But she was worrying. She'd been worrying for weeks, cataloging inconsistencies, the way people flinched when he walked by, the deference that went beyond respect into fear. The nights he came home late with blood on his knuckles he claimed came from gym training. Trust, once questioned, becomes a festering wound that no amount of love can heal without the medicine of truth. "Chan Young," she said carefully, setting down the spatula, "I need you to be honest with me. What exactly is your business?" "Import-export. I told you this. Import-export doesn't make grown men look like they're staring at death when you enter a room. Import-export doesn't require the kind of security you have. Import-export doesn't. Enough. His voice was sharp, final. Then, softer. I've told you what you need to know. The rest is my burden to carry, not yours. I keep you separate from that world because I love you, Diaz. Because you're the one pure thing in my life, and I won't let that darkness touch you. It should have been romantic. Instead, it felt like a door closing. Keeping me in the dark isn't protection. It's just another form of control. Something painful flashed across his face. Is that what you think I'm doing? Controlling you? I think you're hiding something, and I think whatever you're hiding is bigger than you're letting on. He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms despite her resistance. I've never lied to you about the important things, about how I feel, about what you mean to me. The rest is just business. Boring, complicated business that I keep separate because I want you to see me as Chan Young, the man who loves you, not as whatever monster reputation has made me. She wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. Promise me, she whispered against his chest. Promise me that whatever you're involved in, it won't come back to hurt me, hurt us. I promise, he said, and kissed the top of her head. You're safe with me. Always. It was the first direct lie he'd ever told her, and she'd believed it. The weeks that followed were a study in willful blindness. She stopped asking questions. He stopped offering explanations. They existed in a beautiful bubble, where love was enough, where the present mattered more than the past or future, where his kisses could silence her doubts. Until the night she met Hana. Chan Young was hosting a small gathering at the penthouse. Business associates, he'd said, but these men wore expensive suits and expensive smiles and carried the kind of danger that clung to skin like cologne. Diaz played hostess, smiling, serving drinks, pretending she belonged in this world of whispered deals and calculated glances. That's when a woman arrived, stunning, sharp-featured, dressed in white like an inverse of everything Diaz was. She walked straight to Chan Young, kissed both his cheeks in familiar greeting, and said in English clearly meant for Diaz to hear, "So, this is the little distraction keeping you occupied. She's pretty, Chan Young, but we both know pretty doesn't last in your world." Sometimes the truth arrives wearing the face of our worst nightmares, speaking words we've been too afraid to imagine. "Hannah," Chen Young said, warning in his voice. "Don't." "Don't what? Tell her the truth? That you've played this game before? That I've watched you cycle through women like seasons, each one believing she's different, special, the one who'll make you go straight?" Her laugh was cruel music. "You're a romantic, darling, but let's not pretend this is anything more than what it is." Diaz felt her world tilting. "Chen Young?" He pulled her aside, away from prying eyes and smirking mouths. "Hannah is bitter. She's an ex-business partner who wanted more than I could give. Don't listen to her poison." "Is she lying?" Diaz demanded. "About what we had? No. About you being like the others? Yes. You're nothing like anyone before. You're—" "How many others?" His silence was answer enough. Diaz spent the next 3 days in her old apartment, the one she'd kept even after essentially moving into Chen Young's penthouse. Insurance, she'd called it. Now it felt like prophecy. He called 63 times, texted until her phone battery died, showed up at her door with flowers, with apologies, with explanations that somehow explained nothing. "Let me in," he pleaded through the door. "Please, Diaz, let me explain." She finally opened it on the third night, and the sight of him broke something in her chest. He looked wrecked, hair disheveled, eyes red-rimmed, still wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago. This powerful man who commanded fear and respect was falling apart on her doorstep. "Talk," she said simply. They sat on opposite ends of her worn couch, an ocean of hurt between them. "Yes, there were others before you. Women who wanted the lifestyle, the excitement, the danger. It never meant anything, never lasted more than months, because none of them saw me, Diaz. They saw the reputation, the power, the money. You're the first person who looked at me and saw me. How do I know that's true? How do I know I'm not just the latest in a pattern?" "Because I've never brought anyone to my mother's grave before you, never shared my real fears, never woken up in the middle of the night just to make sure you're still breathing beside me, because the thought of losing you makes me understand why men start wars." His voice cracked. "I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable, at trusting. My world doesn't allow for weakness. But you make me want to be weak, make me want to surrender." Diaz felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I can't be with someone who keeps parts of himself locked away. I did that with Malik, ignored the signs, made excuses, believed the beautiful lies until they destroyed me." The reconciliation was sweet, intense, desperate. Two broken people choosing hope over wisdom, love over logic. "I'm not him," Chan Young said fiercely. "I would never steal from you, never hurt you intentionally. My secrets aren't about deceiving you, they're about protecting you." "From what?" He was quiet for a long moment. "From the truth of what I really do. From the kind of man I have to be to survive in my world. From the violence and darkness that would change how you look at me. Maybe I'm stronger than you think. Maybe I'm more of a coward than you know." The honesty in that admission did something to her. She moved closer, took his hand. "I need you to try, Chen Young. Try to let me in. Not all at once, but try. Because I love you, and love without trust is just slow-motion heartbreak." He pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck. "I love you so much it terrifies me. I'll try. I swear I'll try." They held each other as night deepened into dawn, both believing that love and intention would be enough. They were both wrong. Valentine's Day approached. Chan Young was planning something special, kept telling her to keep the evening of February 14th completely clear. She could see the excitement in his eyes, the nervousness in the way he kept checking his phone, the way he smiled to himself when he thought she wasn't looking. "What are you planning?" she'd tease. "Something that'll change everything," he'd reply mysteriously. She thought he meant a romantic gesture, maybe a proposal, given the weight she sensed in his words. She had no idea he meant it literally, that everything, her understanding of who he was, what they had, what was possible between them, was about to implode. February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. 2 days before everything burned. Diaz finished her shift at the Golden Pearl early, surprising Chan Young by showing up at his office, a sleek high-rise downtown that officially housed his import-export company. She'd only been there twice before, both times feeling out of place among the marble and glass and men in expensive suits conducting business in coded language. The receptionist, Min So, smiled warmly. "Ms. Isabel, Mr. Chan is in a meeting, but I'm sure he'll be happy to see you. His office is on the 20th floor." Diaz took the elevator up, her heart light. She was carrying homemade dinner in containers, his favorite, the southern comfort food she'd taught herself to make from her grandmother's recipes: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, a taste of her heritage meeting his world. The 20th floor was eerily quiet. Chan Young's office door was slightly ajar, voices filtering through. She was about to knock when she heard her name. Some truths announce themselves with thunder. Others creep in on silent feet, but their impact is no less devastating. "Diaz doesn't know anything," Chan Young was saying in Korean. Diaz had been learning the language, picking up more than people realized. "And she won't. After Valentine's Day, everything changes. Once I close the deal with Kaito, I can step back, go legitimate, give her the life she deserves." "You're being naive," another voice, Taemin. "You think Kaito will just let you walk away, after what we know, after the leverage we have? He doesn't have a choice. We have enough on him to destroy his entire operation. He gives me what I want: complete exit, protection for Diaz, clean break, or I release everything to the authorities and his rivals." "You're risking everything for a woman." "She's not just a woman," Chan Young's voice was steel. "She's my future, my only chance at something real. I've built this empire on lies and blood, and I'm tired, Taemin. So tired of being the monster everyone thinks I am." Diaz's hand trembled on the door handle. Her mind raced. Kaito, leverage, authorities, empire of lies and blood. The pieces she'd been avoiding finally forming a picture she couldn't unsee. "And if she finds out the truth," Taemin pressed, "about the syndicate, about what we really do, about the arms dealing, the money laundering, the people who've disappeared because they crossed you." The containers slipped from Diaz's hands, crashing to the floor. The office door flew open. Chan Young stood there, and the look on his face, pure devastation mixed with resignation, told her everything. "How much did you hear?" he asked quietly. "Enough." Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Arms dealing? Money laundering? This is what you've been hiding? This is your import-export business?" "Diaz, don't." She held up a hand, stepping back. "You told me you never lied to me. You said I was safe. You promised. And you are safe. Everything I've done, every choice I've made has been about protecting you from this world. By lying to me? By letting me fall in love with a man who doesn't exist?" Tears streamed down her face. "Who are you, Chan Young, really?" He reached for her, but she flinched away. The hurt that crossed his face would have broken her yesterday. Today she felt numb. "I'm the man who loves you more than his own life. The man who's trying to get out of this darkness because you showed me light was possible. I was going to tell you everything after Valentine's Day, after I'd closed the Kaito deal and we were free. I wanted to come to you clean, with a future we could actually build together. But clean hands don't erase bloody histories, and futures built on lies have foundations made of sand. You had months to tell me the truth. Months where I gave you everything, my trust, my body, my broken heart, and you just kept lying. I never lied about loving you. You lied about everything else. That's the same thing. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I told you about Malik. I told you what deception did to me. And you looked me in the eye and did the same thing, just wrapped in prettier words. I am nothing like that man, Chanyang growled. I never took from you. I gave you everything I had. Accept the truth. Accept the basic respect of letting me decide if I wanted to love a criminal, an arms dealer, God, how many people have you hurt, Chanyang? How much blood is on those hands that touched me? The silence was her answer. She turned and walked toward the elevator. Every step felt like dying, but she kept moving. Behind her, she heard Chanyang's broken breathing, heard him say her name like a prayer, like a curse, like the last word of a drowning man. The elevator doors closed between them, and Diaz collapsed against the wall, her sobs echoing in the metal box carrying her away from the man she loved and the future she'd imagined. The envelope arrived at her apartment the next morning, February 13th, slipped under her door while she was in the shower. Plain manila, her name written in precise Korean characters across the front. No return address. Inside, a photograph and a letter. The photograph showed Chanyang younger, maybe 5 years ago, standing with a woman, a black woman, beautiful, her smile radiant as she looked up at him with clear adoration. His arm was around her waist, his expression softer than Diaz had ever seen it. The letter was in English, the handwriting feminine, angry. Dear Diaz, you don't know me, but I know exactly who you are. I'm Amara Thompson. 5 years ago, I was you, the woman Chanyang claimed to love, the one he promised a future to, the one he swore he'd protect from his dangerous world. He lied to me, too. Told me he was getting out of the business, that he'd go legitimate, that I was his reason for wanting to change. Sound familiar? Then I got pregnant. Suddenly, the man who promised me everything couldn't run fast enough. He gave me money, so much money, to take care of it and disappear. Said a child would make me a target, make me vulnerable, that his enemies would use me and the baby to destroy him. I refused, said we'd figure it out together. That's when I learned what Chanyang really means when he says protection. I lost the baby, Diaz. The letter continued. Not naturally. They made it look like an accident, a fall down some stairs, a traumatic miscarriage. But I know. I know what he's capable of. I know that when you become inconvenient, when you know too much, when you stop being worth the risk, you become disposable. I'm sending you this from outside the country, where I've been hiding for 5 years. Because that's what loving Chanyang really means, running forever or dying young. Save yourself. Before you're another photograph he has to explain away. Someone who survived him. Diaz's hands shook so violently she dropped the letter. This couldn't be real. Chanyang couldn't. But looking at the photograph, seeing the undeniable truth of his arm around Amara, the familiar way they stood together, the identical expression of devotion she'd seen in her own mirror. The door burst open. Chanyang stood there, having apparently picked the lock, his face panicked. I felt something wrong. I needed to... He saw the photograph, the letter, and all the color drained from his face. "Where did you get that?" "So it's true." Her voice was eerily calm. "There was another woman, another black woman you promised forever to, another person you lied to about getting out. Diaz, it's not what you think. Did she get pregnant?" His silence was confirmation. "Did you pay her to abort it?" "I was trying to protect her. A child would have made her a target for every enemy I had. I made the choice I thought would keep her alive." "And the miscarriage, the fall, did you arrange that too?" "What? No." He moved toward her, desperate. "I would never. Diaz, I don't know what that letter says, but Amara left of her own choice, took the money, and disappeared. I never hurt her, never would have." "But you let her go. She was pregnant with your child, and you let her go." "Because I loved her enough to know she deserved better than my world." His voice broke. "Just like I love you enough to be trying to escape it now. Don't you see? Amara taught me that I couldn't keep dragging people I love into darkness. That's why with you, I'm actually doing it, actually getting out, actually building an exit, because I learned from losing her that half measures don't work." Diaz looked at this man, this stranger wearing the face of her love. "How many others, Chanyang? How many other lies? You're the only one that matters now, the only one I've ever—" "That's not an answer." Outside, rain began to fall on Busan's streets, washing away nothing, changing nothing, as two hearts broke in the space between truth and lies. 3 years later, Diaz stood in front of her bookstore, pages and peace, the dream she'd thought was dead, now thriving in a quiet Busan neighborhood. She'd testified at Chanyang's trial, watched him receive 8 years reduced to 5 for cooperation, watched an entire criminal network collapse. The bell chimed. Chanyang stood in her doorway, thinner, older, but somehow lighter. "You're early," she said, heart racing. "You weren't supposed to be out for 2 more years." "Good behavior." Continued cooperation. He moved closer, hesitant. "I wasn't sure if I should come." "Why did you?" "To prove people can change. To show you the man you believed I could be. Maybe I actually became him." She studied him, saw the tattoos still marking his skin, but also peace in his expression, clarity in his eyes. "Come back in 6 months," she said, finally. "I need time, but come back. We'll have coffee. We'll talk. We'll see if there's anything worth exploring between who we were and who we've become." His smile was sunlight breaking through clouds. 6 months. I'll be here. Thank you for joining this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment about your thoughts. Did Diaz make the right choice? Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next story. Until we meet again, remember, real love isn't about finding perfection. It's about choosing truth, even when it breaks your heart. Sending you all love and light. See you in the next one.